Greetings. If, like a lot of modelers, you use FlexTrack, there are some challenges behind using it, although it's mostly pretty easy. Mainly, it involves bending it. Now, if you use something like this Atlas FlexTrack, this Code 83, this stuff is so springy it just about bends itself. That's not always the case. For example, what I'm using are typically Shinohara or Micro Engineering Code 70 and Code 55 rail, FlexTrack rather. So that stuff tends to be really stiff, and you've got to really shape it and form it, and that can be a bit of a challenge sometimes. Well, there's a pretty easy way that I've found to do that. It involves a couple little homemade tools. Now in this case, for example, we have a switch coming in from the main logging line, and this is supposed to be two landings, two loading spots on a logging landing. So the first rail, I've already got part of one down in the back here. It's already laid, partly spiked down. Now the one in the front here has to come in fairly tight, run right along the front edge, and more or less parallel the back one. And we need space right here, roughly, where there's going to be a spar tree installed someday. So we've got to work this around here. Now I need to bend the track right here at the beginning, and to mark it, I typically use a little bit of masking tape here. I'm going to have to make the most significant part of the bend in the first, 9 inches or so. And I'm going to put it on this as my work surface. So what I'm using are these two little blocks of wood. Not wood, actually. It's a little scrap of Homosote with a piece of plywood glued on top. Another one back here. And the whole principle of what I'm doing here is I am clamping the rail down, the FlexTrack down, and gripping it with this so that when I bend this end one way or the other, the back end doesn't bend. Now you can also put a second block back here if you want to really hold it in place, but with the front snug down, not tight enough to crush the rails, of course, and that's what the Homosote is for, is to kind of softly distribute the load. And with that clamped down, you just start pushing this. You can push it and shape it a little bit, move it to the side, and kind of eyeball the curve if you need to. You can use something. I have these little homemade curve templates that I've made up. You can kind of check the radius of the curve with the template to make sure that it's going to fit right. In this case, it's a log landing, so there's going to be nothing but small log locomotives that are accustomed to sharp corners, and log cars, 40-foot log cars. And I've got that end shaped, so I'm going to take this off, release it for the moment, and I will take the curved end, try it back here. Okay, that's really pretty good. That lines up fairly well. And then from here on, I can move my tape with this back there. So from about here on, it has to be curved to the left just a little bit in order to follow the front of the roadbed. So I'm going to clamp this up again. Hope you can still see that okay. And I will clamp this other end just for paranoia's sake. And once again, I can start pushing this back, shaping this a little bit. And with this part clamped, again, the rail is not going to shift in the ties, so that you can move the parts you want to move and shape it as you want it. Doesn't take much. It does, however, take trial and error. So we'll put this back up here and check it. And we're pretty close. So we're pretty close to that. And that's really all there is to it. Once again, you use these little blocks of Homosote. You can also use a piece of plywood, for example, with cork roadbed glued on the bottom of it. That would work, just so it's something that provides a little bit of a cushion for the rails that you're clamping on. And trial and error, you fit it, take it off, adjust it a bit, put it back on, trial, check it again, and sooner or later, you get it where you want it. Now, once you get the rail bent to shape, especially the critical curve areas like this, we've got it bent, we've got it, the joint is soldered here, and I have spikes for about the first 6 inches. Because once it's connected like that, then you can do a little bit of tweaking and adjusting with the rail just laying on the surface like that. And what I typically will do is start back here, and I'll get this part adjusted like I like it, spike these, and I'll come over here, move this part a little bit, get it adjusted like I like it, check it for alignment, spike it, etc. Make yourself a couple of these little blocks, clamp them down. You can also do it on a sheet of plywood on the edge of a workbench, for example. And that's an easy way to be able to bend or adjust and bend and shape your flex track without aggravation. The next video we'll be having in a little bit will concern making an adapter between, or adapting the joint between code 70 down to code 55, for example, making that a nice, smooth, easy to run transition. Anyway, hope you've enjoyed this and maybe found a new trick to ease one of those tasks on building your layout.